What's going on, everybody? This is Jerome Moore, host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations. And firstly, I want to say thank you for all love and support, and thank you for exploring the perspectives of social change with me on this platform. I want to encourage you all to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and on your favorite podcast listen platform. And make sure you give us a 5-star rating if you're loving the Deep Dish Conversations. I appreciate all of the support again. I hope you all enjoy this episode.
This is deep dish, right?
Yeah, but let's get deep.
So I'm going deep on both sides.
Welcome back to another episode of Deep Dish Conversations. I'm your creator and host, Jerome Moore. And as always, every guest that comes on here is special. I had to track this guest down for about 2 years, though. Well, we have with us today Courtney, Hale, Chief Hope Diller.
Chief Hope Diller, yeah.
Chief Hope Diller of Super Money Kids, entity named Knowledge Bank. And when I met Courtney, it was Knowledge Bank.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm gonna take us how far back. And shout out to the Studio Bank for sponsoring this episode. First and foremost, thank you. Appreciate y'all. But I'm gonna tell you how far we go back though. Shout out to Jeremy Williams, Chico, because he the one that connected us, right?
Yep.
And I can't remember what restaurant we was at, but we sat down. I'm gonna tell you how far we go back of just like how far Knowledge Bank and Super Money Kids has come. You were still working, I think, in healthcare. ACA?
Yeah. It was a HCA affiliate.
ACA affiliate. That's how far. And I remember, like, us. What was I doing? I can't remember what I was doing.
I want to say you just got back in the country
Maybe,
or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. And I know you was in that space, like, man, I'm ready to, like, kind of just be able to go full time, but, like, I got to get the money thing together and stuff like that. But now here you are, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I know where we were in East Nashville. We were at, it's like the Caribbean restaurant. It's not even open. It was right there across from East High School.
Okay.
That location is closed. But yeah, man, I remember that vividly. Yeah. It doesn't seem like it's been that much time that's gone by, but it has been a lot of time. There's been a lot of life.
Right.
Changing events that have happened in the process. We've changed the branding of the company, but still just as passionate about the work than we've ever been. So yeah, man.
Yeah, man, congratulations on all that, man. It's always good when you see a black man, for me specifically, just doing this thing, taking care of family, taking care of community, not conforming. You know what I'm saying? You can be your complete true self. You know. I'm gonna put this on the record. Your sister wild though.
My sister's live.
She live. You know what I'm saying?
My sister's live. Yeah.
But I shout out to her though. In PHC Pearl, you know. But man, let's get right into it, man. I want for people who may not know you, because now you can just Google your name and you know it's everything popping up. You're doing big stuff out here. But for people who may not know you, haven't hit Google yet, man, just tell people a little bit about yourself and kind of an abbreviated kind of journey of how you got into Super Money Kids.
Yeah, man. So Courtney Hale, Nashville native, MNPS product, which is something that I'm really proud of and like to promote all through this city, through Nashville. You know, of course, a lot of the work and the outreach that you do goes beyond this city, but people who are watching this locally, it's important for me to say, hey, this is what a public school product can be. Right. And our schools are much better than they sometimes are given a reputation for. So that piece is important. I got into financial literacy work, man, because prior to being in like corporate, I did a lot of work in financial services. And I got to see a lot of really good stories about families and money. I also got to hear some really, really tragic stories. And while hearing all of that in the various experiences that I had, I was like, yo, this thing is way too complicated for us to have to learn through trial and error. Right. But at the same time, it's simple enough for us to be able to learn as kids. And I would look around to find resources that existed to teach us about our money. And there really just wasn't much there. But I felt like I had the expertise a level of creativity, and at the time, I was much younger, to create some engaging content that could change the lives of young people all over the country. And what we did when we first started, and it was probably around the time when we first met, was we created a summer program for teenagers. We ran it for about 8 to 10 weeks every summer, just teaching them everything that I felt like they needed to know about money, just to create a strong foundation and to help them have conversations with family about money, because I felt like through the exposure and through the conversations, you can start changing the future of your family just by talking about it, just by being aware. And that went really well, and we were able to get some partnerships with some larger nonprofits. The biggest one that we had during this transition was the YMCA, and they were really receptive to what we were doing, to what I was doing, because at that time it was like, me and my wife basically making this thing happen. We had a few volunteers at the time, but they were like, yeah, let's see what you can do. And we designed a program for them, and we got that program. We got that curriculum into a few other YMCA programs, and from there, we were really able to expand because they gave us like credibility.
Right.
And in anything that you start, any business that you start, like that credibility piece is so important, because everybody's so weary, and I didn't look like
Right.
What we were used to seeing as a society when it comes to like money and finance. Like
Right.
I didn't have that look. Like I was young,
Right.
I wore sneakers and hoodies, and
Right.
I was actually probably much more like business casual then than I am now, to be honest. But still, I didn't look the part, and so I was able to get credibility from a couple organizations. We ended up getting a really I was gonna say large contract, but large becomes relative. At that time,
Right.
it was a huge contract that we got.
Substantial.
It was a massive contract with the city of Nashville through their summer youth employment program, and it was our first like multi-year contract. And then from there, we've just been able to just get really, really creative with our branding, curriculum, going from like in-person programming to everything being digital.
Right.
And through some of that became, Super Money Kids, as we started concentrating on a younger demographic. And so,
Hold on, let me pause it right here.
yeah.
Courtney did not bring us a bank, y'all.
Yeah, that's a major fail on my part.
No, hold on, because we saw eat some of this pizza too. Even though, so this is what Courtney did, y'all. This is deep dish conversations. We don't discriminate against any type of pizza, right? As long as it's good pizza, it doesn't matter. But he said, give me thin crust, all right? Then he said, on top of that, let's make everything vegan too. It's really hard to ruin pizza for me. You know what I'm saying? But like,
I came close.
You came close. And then he gonna tell me when he got in here, y'all. Yeah, I started to really tell you, just give me a salad.
I was gonna order a salad on deep dish combos.
We would have counted. This episode would have never been seen.
This
This episode, we would have never seen this one. I wouldn't dare. I would have sent it to you and say, "Hey man, I'll let you know when it's coming out."
Do what you want to do with it.
Do what you want to do with it. Put it on Super Money Kids. Do what you want to do with it. But it's not gonna do this. But but man, partake when you want to. We're gonna try it out. We're gonna try it out. And this is all real. Everything. They do a really great job at 312 just with pizza. So this is my first thin crust from them. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see.
It's straight.
It's straight, yeah. It still got flavor.
Yeah.
I thought the veganness of it was gonna take away from the flavor. It was gonna take away from the flavor, but
It's good.
It's good.
Coming from the dude that eat, Of course I think it's okay.
No, but it's good. If it's coming from me, because I'm not gonna lie. But all pizza ain't for everybody. But all pizza ain't for everybody. So I had some pizza like But now this is good, and for it to be like real, like vegan cheese, vegan pepperoni, the crust is hidden, yeah. And I think like if you can make a really good crust, even if the toppings are okay, like it can make it more than probably what it should be.
Absolutely. And I think they have more vegan toppings besides the pepperoni.
Well, look, what you did, you confused me. When you sent me what you wanted, I thought premium was a pizza. And so when I put the order in, shout out to Kim, and I put the order in to Kim, she was like, do you want like all of this stuff on there? I'm like, is premium not a pizza? Because it had like pepperoni, Italian beef, and then it had vegan pepperoni, vegan cheese, and some other type of cheese. I was like, I don't know. I thought, so let me check. Of course, Courtney didn't hit me back, man.
So you went safe.
I said, I wouldn't say, like, this dude vegan cheese and pepperoni. And for him to pick that, I think he on this health thing. So let's go with it.
Yeah, man. I told you, like, I'm trying to, I'm getting up there, man. I have a birthday in a few weeks. I'll be 39. Yeah, man. And so I tell people all the time.
I was going to say 35.
Nah, man. I'll be 39. So.
You're that much older than me?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, like I've always been like really healthy, really active. Always have done some type of, lifestyle change in terms of my diet. Like I've been, pescatarian. I've, not eating, carbs. Like I've done a lot, but it's really helped me in terms of my body and how I feel.
Right.
But something happened at 36. 36 was the age to where like I really like started feeling a little bit old. Not feeling old. I don't feel old. But 36 was the year that I was like, oh yeah, this is different than these 35 other years. You know what I'm saying? Like this is so now I have to work a little bit harder, to stay trim, not to have like the dad belly. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If I'm in the gym or whatever, can't eat as many sweets because your brain don't function the same, So yeah, man. So this is just, we into a new year. I wilded out at the end of the year, so I had to bring it all back, man. So
Yeah. Well, I'm only 31, so I'm gonna wait 5 more years. Nah, I need to get it together. I really need. I was together, man. Once you take that break, and you get busy. You start coming up with stuff in your mind, like But I'm getting back in the gym the next month, though.
Do it.
No, for sure.
Just feel better. Help you stay younger longer.
That's a fact. That's a fact. So, I know you was going to get into some stuff with Super Money Kids, but I want to ask you this, though. How did let me preface it. Many of us, and especially in our black community, right? Generational wealth just doesn't exist for many of us coming up, right? Like we can have affluent families, but don't have like affluent families with wealth, right? And many of us, new entrepreneurs, new business owners, are like first, to trying to figure out how to get loans, how to get business credit, all of this, trying to figure out what financial literacy really means and what it is, right? So for you, how did your personal upbringing with your parents and what you seen like influence you to do what you do today?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I talk about this often. So for me in my childhood, it's like I saw like what some of the consequences were of like financial illiteracy. Like I saw what some of the consequences could be of being broke. I won't say poor, because we had a lot of love and my family did their best. But, we were broke. And so a couple of things that we saw is, how financial troubles can end relationships, how it can create fractured homes, how it can impact your ability to dream and utilize the talents that you have. And so one of the stories I tell is like, so I grew up with my stepdad and my mom, and they both had their unique like talents and skills. And they both had aspirations of making money doing those things. They just had completely different views on how to do that. And like my stepdad is like the risk it all type. It's like, hey, I'm gonna fight for what I want. I'm gonna risk everything that I have. I don't care who I upset in the process. Like, this is what I want, and I'm gonna go for it.
Right.
My mom was much more conservative. She's like, okay, we have 3 kids. It doesn't, we can't make every financial risk, because she's a mother, she's a nurturer, right? She's thinking about the security of her children. And so she was a lot more logical and conservative in her approaches toward entrepreneurship. And their different views, among some other things, ultimately caused them to divorce. And so I will always think back on my childhood about things that happened and struggles that we had and just a variety of things. I won't get into all of the details, but one of the things that I often would re-examine was who was right. Right? Was my dad right?
Right.
Was my mom right? And I came to the conclusion that they were both right. When you have a unique talent or you want to start a business, you should be able to go after that thing with no concern,
right.
with all of your energy and time and heart.
Right.
But you should do that in a way that's calculated, in a way that you can plan for. They were both doing the right things. They just didn't have instruction on how to bring those things together. There wasn't anything out there to teach people how to start businesses.
Right.
There wasn't any education around financial literacy.
Right.
But if those things would have exist, all of our stories could be completely different. Now,
I'm gonna challenge you a little bit.
And I was going to say that I would say that if the stories were different, there may not be super money kids.
So I'm gonna challenge you on this. Did they not exist, or they didn't have access?
I'm gonna say it's a little bit of both. There even today in 2022,
right.
There are very few financial education and resources available. So if you go back, 25, 30 years ago, there were even less.
Okay.
Now, another thing that is also true is that there were people available who were bankers and insurance agents and people who did the traditional financial services jobs. Those resources were not accessible for a family of the economic status of my family.
Right.
So from that perspective, those people who maybe you could have gotten it, and maybe even if you were like very middle class, there's a lot of data that shows that bankers would give people who would qualify for like prime rates, would give them more subprime, rates on loans, even though they may have qualified for more things. There's a lot of data and research out there that talks about how the insurance industries would prey on Black and brown communities, and would steal their payments on their insurance and never pay out, and would offer them lower policies than what they were actually paid for. This is all, and we all know about access to real estate and redlining and how that's impacted our community and our ability to build wealth. All those things. So there was an access issue as well, but there was also an availability issue that existed.
So, what does financial literacy mean to you?
Yeah, so for me, financial literacy is the ability to understand money and build wealth for yourself, utilizing your gifts and talents, right? So it's 3 parts for me.
Okay.
Number one is like being able to understand money, but the understanding of money in itself doesn't do anything for you, right? You actually have to be able to put that information into practice. All right. So it's being able to, build up your credit score, buy a home, one day pull the equity out of that home to make other investments, or contributing to your retirement plan so that you have sufficient income at the point that you graduate. It's being able to financially support your children so that they can acquire new skills so they themselves can build wealth, and then you pass those things down to them. And then the third piece is being able to do that in a way that you can give all of yourself every day. Now there are going to be some of us and some of our parents who absolutely sacrifice. It's like, I am going to sacrifice my personal happiness and work in a job that I hate so that I can care for my children. And I understand it and I respect that. And you got to do what you got to do. Right. But I would like there to come a point to where we don't have to do that anymore. Okay. If you have a passion to do community work or to change the world, you can do that in a way that you're making money. Right. And you don't have to be a not poor. You don't have to be a broke community changer. Right. You can do that in a way that works for you.
No, we don't want that over here.
No, we don't want you to be that. Or right. If you're a teacher or whatever you're interested, whatever your passion is, if you're a musician, if you're an artist, if you're a welder or HVAC tech, occupational therapy, whatever it is, right. I want you to love that work and be able to create the lifestyle that you want for yourself. So to me, that's what financial literacy means.
And so as I was preparing for this interview 2 years ago, and somebody who wants to build this financial wealth for myself, generational wealth for my family, did a little research on financial literacy, and it was amazing to me some of the things, some of the narratives that I came across that I never really thought about before when it came to financial literacy. And I want to pose this to you and get your perspective on what you think about. And one of the first ones is, somebody needing financial literacy, does that mean they're financially illiterate? Stumped him. He's chewing on the pizza. Nah.
I mean, I don't think it matters.
Okay.
I don't think it matters. I think what matters is what you're doing.
Okay.
It's not the category. It's like whether, I'm financially literate or I'm financially illiterate.
Because when people say, hey, I want to give you financial literacy, or you may need financial literacy, the presumption could be on the person receiving that, oh, you don't think I understand money, you don't think I understand my finances, and that's why I wanted to pose that question to you.
Yeah, because people get protective and prideful.
Right.
First of all, we don't talk like that. We won't be like, hey, I think you need some financial literacy.
But when we hear it though,
yeah. So financial literacy, that's the term that we use within the organizations when our government agencies are, writing proposals to get funding from the federal government, or when I'm applying for funding, or when we need to categorize things. Mm-hmm. How we talk to each other is, hey, mama getting old. What we gonna do with that house out east? Right. All right. Well, let's talk to somebody who can give us some advice on some things that we should do. Right. That's not saying you're financially illiterate. Right. It's not saying that you're financially literate. It's just saying, hey, we need to have some conversations. Right. I think in terms of what needs to change as a society is we need more financial literacy within our organizations that educate and train our children, because now more than ever, the cost of being financial illiterate is more expensive than it ever has been, especially for people from communities of color, because we lose wealth. One of the things that people don't understand about, the racial conversation around money and how the wealth gap matters and how it impacts us seriously is black families can achieve a certain level of income and a certain status in terms of their wealth, and then we can lose it because we don't have multiple generations that have been able to build wealth. Most of the time, for most black people, not everybody, this doesn't apply to everybody, but most black people have only had one generation where they can successfully build wealth. But what happens is we have a national economic crisis, and we can name, they're named. Like, we just had the pandemic.
Right.
Prior to the pandemic, we had the housing crisis of 2008. Prior to that, we had the dot-com boom.
Right.
What happens in every one of these recession cycles is black people, you lose their wealth, and they're not able to regain it. You know, man, some instances for a generation.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Right. So we have to have more financial literacy in place so that everybody is able to succeed. And that's not just like black people. It even matters for our economy as a whole.
Right.
Because growth is important for our economy. All right. If you got the same little group of people who buying stuff all the time, well, your economy's not growing.
Right.
But if you can take this group of people down here and give them the jobs and education and help them make the decisions that help them kind of move up that economic, increase their economic status. Now you have a larger group of people who can buy, and that creates growth for the economy as a whole.
What is somebody that is financially illiterate look like? What's the definition of that? Because I guess we gonna understand one. I guess we need to understand the other.
Yeah. So what it looks like is, what it looks like is people living check to check, having to clock in. Not having substantial benefits, not being able to pass wealth down to their families, insufficient coverage in terms of insurance, whether that's health insurance, life insurance, not owning any assets, so not having any savings,
right,
not having any investments. Literally, you go to work so that you can pay your bills, and then you have nothing left to build on. And so, like, we talk a lot about, we teach kids about net worth, and we don't have net worth conversations in America. We only talk about income.
Right.
Like, most of all we talk about is income, but when we start having conversations about the wealth gap, that's actually a measure of your net worth.
Okay.
All right, so it's like what you own minus what you owe.
Right.
So people who, what does financial illiteracy look like? It's people who have less than, I even hate to even put a benchmark to it, but like the average net worth of a white family in America is like $113,000.
Okay. Net
worth. So assets, everything you own minus what you owe, what's left is $113,000.
Okay.
For black families, it's like $10,000. So like what you own minus what you owe is $10,000. But
it's a lot to play. It's a lot that goes into that. But
yeah, it's like, so what you own is like cash, investments, real estate, even say cars, jewelry, right? What you own. What you owe is like loans primarily.
Right.
To the bank, loan on your car, loan on your house, if you even have one, student loans, maybe you owe the IRS.
Right.
Like, so you look at the difference of that. For black people, it's $10,000, which ain't a lot.
So,
which is like nothing.
It's nothing, right?
So that's what financial illiteracy looks like.
Okay, illiteracy. You just gave us a lot of breakdown, which I'm excited for. Right? Again, been preparing for this for 2 years, right? Now, out of all the things you just kind of said about financial literacy and financial illiteracy, baked into that is like critical social issues, right? That prevents blacks from being able to raise their net worth, and that kind of advantages whites and to keep their net worth and continue the growth, right? So when we talk about financial literacy, how does the social construct that we all trying to navigate play a part in that? Because if I can't get a livable wage, which is $51,000 in Nashville at this particular moment, how can I manage to garner or to practice, because you said practice, financial literacy.
Mm-hmm.
How do we combat that? How do we combat that?
All right. So we're gonna have a real conversation. First of all,
it's deep dish. We got to get deep.
I'm gonna acknowledge. I'm gonna acknowledge the social constructs that have existed in this country that have prevented people of color from building wealth. I've already talked about a few of them.
Yeah.
And there are still some barriers that exist out there, especially in corporate America. I've experienced that before. I've worked in a place that, honestly, if most people in Nashville looked at that job, they're like, that guy has a really good job. And there were times where I deserved better jobs than the one that I was working, and I didn't get those jobs. And I'm 100% positive that race played a role in that. I have friends throughout the country who work for corporations who are still becoming like the first to do X, Y, and Z for these companies. All right, this is 2022, right? 2020, like we are still reaching first in terms of equality, in terms of where we work, titles. Yeah, it's still happening.
Right.
So I want to acknowledge that. I also want to acknowledge how where we live impacts the quality of education that our children have access to. I know, especially in a city like Nashville, that certain families are deterred from communities, because of the race of the people that live in those communities. Now it's changing a little bit now because everybody just want to live in Nashville, and you only got so many places where you can live, right? But I know that that's happening, and education plays a role in our ability to build wealth as well. With that said, and acknowledged and respected, and that could be a whole conversation that we can have in itself that I can speak to. We do still have the abilities to change our current financial status. We do that in a few different ways.
Okay.
Number one, we have to get ourselves in industries where we can make more money.
Okay.
All right. Intentionally. Technology is number one. All right. If you're at a place where you're unhappy with your job, you're unhappy with your income, and you don't see a way out of that, you need to immediately stop. And you need to find one of the many technology training online schools that you can enroll in. A lot of those are really reasonable. They're a fraction of the cost of what it would take to go get a degree from somewhere.
Right.
And normally they take a lot less time.
Right.
You're typically talking about like a lot of boot camps,
right.
Like 18 to 24-month programs.
Right.
Develop a skill in technology. There are people who have worked with us, like worked with us in terms of like a part of our team, helped us create some of our projects. I have seen them transition to technology, start off with a job at like $36,000, and in 24 months they make it over $100,000. I've seen this over and over and over again. Technology, I think that's where the biggest change is in terms of increasing your income. There are some other places, depending on the city that you live in, figure out what industries are really driving your city. So we're in Nashville, so it's, healthcare, technology, logistics, and tourism. Right. All right. There are jobs within those industries that still don't pay much money, but you want to be able to find the ones where you can significantly increase your income. So you have to make the decision, because it's not hard having a job and a schedule that you're used to, saying that I'm going to add something else onto my plate so I can grind for the next 24 months so that I can greatly increase my income, right? It's like delayed gratification at its finest, and it's hard, and it's not easy. Right. You have to step outside of your comfort zone to do that, but that's one thing that's required to increase the money that we make. Another thing is entrepreneurship is really, really important. Mm-hmm. We talk about entrepreneurship a lot within Super Money Kids, and our narrative around that topic has even changed. And we used to teach entrepreneurship as an alternative to traditional employment, and we stopped doing that. And the reason being is now in this era that we're in, I don't think entrepreneurship is is an option anymore.
Right.
I think we all have to be entrepreneurs, because one reason that you mentioned is if you live in a city like Nashville and you're underpaid, you almost got to have a side hustle
Right.
to make ends meet.
Right.
But the other reason is I think it's our side gigs that give us happiness and joy and purpose, and we can figure out ways to monetize that. And the other reason in terms of why entrepreneurship is important is because nothing is given. Like nothing is a guarantee anymore.
Right.
Even if you work, I'm gonna say even if you work for a technology company, but the difference is that even if you work for a technology company and you get laid off, you can just
Right.
go
It
across the
ain't
street.
yours, so-
Yeah, you just go across the street, get you another job.
Right.
But most of the jobs that people have, you can get laid off at any moment. I work for a company that laid off 30% or 25-30% of our workforce a week before Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah, we laid off like 30, like a quarter of the whole workforce a week before Christmas.
Wow.
Like nothing, and these are really smart people, very educated. It's a great company.
Right.
But just things happen.
Right.
Right. And so because of the lack of predictability, the lack of job security that exists across all industries, if you lose a job, like you got to figure out how you can make some money real quick, because it typically takes about, I think on average, it takes 4 to 6 months to find another job after you've lost one.
Right.
Now, it don't take that long if you already got one.
Right.
But that's why they say, like, if get something when you don't need it.
Right.
Now, when you get fired and you're looking for another job, it's going to take you 4 to 6 months. Now, you just leave a job, you can probably find one in about 30 days.
Right.
But yeah, so it's like through entrepreneurship and ownership that allows us to kind of get out of that hole of lack of income. Then there are other things that we can do more long term that may not impact. I'm gonna think about somebody like my parents' age. Like if you hadn't done any of the things that we've talked about in terms of building wealth, like what can you do? Well, you can ensure that your kids don't have to go through the same thing that you did by having a will and having life insurance. So you have something to pass down to them. So at least they're starting from a better starting position than what you did. So, I mean, those are a few things that can absolutely be done. E-commerce. So one of my, this is a personal theory, and I think people like Jeff Bezos would agree with me. Listen to me, talking about Jeff Bezos going to agree with me. Like I ain't agreeing with Jeff, but he's going to agree with me. But there was a point in time in this country where the primary path to building wealth was through real estate. Families built wealth through home ownership. That's the reason why redlining was so hurtful to black people. It's because, the federal government, they had issued this new deal to help families be able to build wealth. You didn't have to bring as much money to the closing table. You could just bring a little bit of money, get this house going to appreciate. You could later take money out, buy another house, start a business, send your kids to college. And we were denied that. And so anyway, so there was a point in time where real estate was the primary mechanism for building wealth in America. I think we've reached an era where that's no longer the case. I actually think the primary tool to building wealth in America now is through e-commerce. So, and I think that even e-commerce can be broken down into a couple different categories. I think there's literally selling products and services online, right? Whatever it is, whatever you want to sell, like you just start selling it, run a dope digital marketing campaign, you'll sell it to people all over the world. But then I also think producing content is a part of it. Absolutely is a part of e-commerce because the ads that run is about selling a product, right? Online. And so I think we've reached an era where real estate isn't the primary tool. Now it's e-commerce. So everybody should be selling something online and everybody should be producing content. The great thing about that for everybody, but specifically people of color, is that there's no barrier of entry. Like even if you wanted to go out and like buy a house, like I ain't gonna talk about Nashville because it's ridiculous, but let's just say in a regular city that's growing at a normal pace, you find you a house that's $200,000, you gotta bring 20% of that to the closing. most of the time, there are some
10,
programs
20
that are out there. You got to bring some money to the table, right? So you got to have some bread saved up. Well, you can start you can put your cell phone on a tripod and start producing content tonight.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You can put up a Shopify page for $30 a month. You know what I'm saying, to sell a product.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And maybe you wholesale your product for $500. So $530 in the first month gets your e-commerce business started.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So there's not the same barrier of entry to build wealth that there has been, in the last, 4 decades.
Right. What's going on, everybody? This is Jerome Moore, creator and host of Deep Dish Conversations. And I know y'all enjoying this episode, but just real quickly, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button and hit that notification so you can be notified when we drop new episodes and interviews. All right? I appreciate all love and support, and let's get back to this episode. I think it's hard to combat. We have to be innovative and know how to navigate it in this social construct, because the systemic discrimination, racism, it finds a way to still marginalize folks when there's even no entry to barrier, just because even if we use our face, it's our skin. It's a stigma to it, even from a digital content perspective, right? But I think the ways that it's something we just got to navigate, right? I don't like it is what it is.
Listen,
it is what it is.
In terms of building wealth, there's gonna always be an obstacle,
right?
Like there's gonna be something,
right?
Racism will forever exist in this country because there's no interest in this country to address it,
right?
So we can't allow that to be you got to get over that, because once you get beyond racism, you're gonna run into a whole bunch of other things as to why your business not getting off the ground, or why people don't like your content,
right?
And you can't be sensitive either, right? Like you can't, I've experienced a lot of racism, and it's upsetting, but I don't have time. I ain't got time to complain about that. I complain about it to like my closest friends or whatever, and then after a little while you vent,
you got to.
like you get over it, and you just keep on going. Like, nah, we're broke in the richest country. I'm saying we, as a black people, are broke in the richest country in the world, and that foolishness, like, get over it. Like, get over that. I'm not saying our people who are fighting for it need to stop.
Right.
I'm speaking purely from an economic perspective.
Okay.
Purely from an economic perspective. I'm not talking about socially. Right. In terms of building businesses and people making money, like it's some.
And we in a pretty good city right now to get some things going. If you can get past mentally, if you can just say, okay, that's gonna be what it's gonna be. But I know it's money in Nashville. It's opportunity. There's 100 people coming here a day. Like, I can make something shake. I can make something shake, and I can profit from it, and it can be mine. And whatever's gonna come with it's gonna come with it, just because you in this country. But like, that don't have to be a barrier, though. It
don't have to be. There are a lot of people here. There are a lot of people with money here.
Right.
Think about think about how you can do something versus why you can't. Because I've talked to friends who live here who come from other cities where there's not a lot of opportunity, and it's hard for me to even fathom what it's like to be in a city and there's like not a major corporation based there. Right. Where everybody that lives in the city, everybody, like black, white, otherwise, they like work for the local factory. Right. They go clock in and they get off, and they do the same thing for 40 years. And that's all there is to do in that city. Right. That's what people are experiencing. It's people all over this country that love to live in Nashville and deal with these racist ass people here. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because it's opportunity. Okay, like I'm gonna deal with that problem, but
And that's why I always talk about navigating, right? Because it's like, it's gonna be here. So how do we navigate it the best way we can, where we can still be great, successful, build, and be financially wealthy, learn financial literacy, learn wealth management, and all those things, and then make it as even easier for the next generation to navigate it, because you have a better, stronger economic base than we might have had, right?
Yeah.
I have a question for my intern.
Okay.
Caden is right over there.
All right.
He got to come up with a question or two for every guest.
All
so
right.
This is his question to you. Shout out to Caden. How do we promote uplifting black communities through financial literacy without feeding into the false narrative that black people are less financially literate than white people? Good question, Caden, by the way.
Let me hear it. A very good question. Let me hear the question again.
You know it's a good question when they say, let me hear it one more time. How do we promote uplifting black communities through financial literacy without feeding into the false narrative that black people are less financially literate than white people?
I think the first part is being able to understand that black people's current economic status isn't a fault of their own, and it has been very systemic in how we've gotten here. I think that's the first. I think that's the first piece. The second piece is I think we have to approach this solution with a level of respect for the people that we want to support. Right? This isn't about decisions you made. It's not about like, oh, you had 2 kids before you was 25, and why would you do that? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like when we start talking about organizations that support certain populations, there's a space where it gets very judgmental.
Right.
And you can't judge a person's path. You just have to understand that they just want better.
Right.
And the focus should be on helping people do better.
Right.
And the details in terms of their past, it's irrelevant.
Right.
That false narrative around that's just foolish in itself. And there's really no need to really give that any real energy just because it's just a false statement.
Right.
People just want to do better. Like we all, regardless of what we look like, our race, our religion, our sexuality, like we're deep down, we're all the same.
Right.
Like we have passions, we have love, we want to take care of our loved ones, we want to be happy. Mm-hmm. That's what matters the most. If you want to help.
Right.
The judgmental part has to go out the window.
Okay.
But you also have to be like I said at first, you also have to be able to acknowledge that the gap that exists in terms of wealth for black people and white people, it comes from a very intentional place.
Right.
And policies that existed in this country.
Right.
We talked about the New Deal. The New Deal had a lot of programs underneath it. The GI Bill was one. The GI Bill is a program that allowed veterans and their children to be able to go get college degrees for free.
Right.
In the initial versions of the GI Bill, it excluded black people.
Right.
So if you were related to a veteran, you could go to college for free, unless you are black.
Right.
All right. Federal Housing Authority. It's the program that managed the like FHA loans and all that. Like it said that, if you get this government loan, you only have to bring X amount of dollars, but you have to live in these neighborhoods. We will not give loans for homes in these other neighborhoods.
Right.
And all those other neighborhoods throughout the country were black community.
Right.
And if you go back and if you compare some of those maps to maps of today, those same communities that were redlined back in the 50s and 60s are still some of the poorest communities in the country.
Yep.
Still.
Yep.
All right. So you have to be able to acknowledge the history and how we've gotten to this place.
So I wanna move after the acknowledgement, right? Because I think as a country and even as a city, because we speaking straight to Nashville here, as a city we've acknowledged a lot of systemic harm, structural racism in our organizations and our institutions in this city, all right? when it comes to financial literacy, now that we have acknowledged a lot of this stuff, and I know with Super Money Kids is specifically talking in ingraining the youth, what can we do in Nashville? Like what Super Money Kids are doing in Nashville, how can we continue to do more in that and making sure that our youth that's coming up in Nashville understands the importance of financial literacy and learn how to navigate that regardless your race, gender, sexuality, and all those things.
Yeah, I think some of it is a perspective change. I think sometimes people look at financial literacy as something that you need as an adult just to maneuver through the world, right? You need to know how to do certain things. But I actually see financial literacy as a motivator for students to perform academically. I think it gives hope. Like the whole chief hope dealer came from, hey, this is more than like budgets and credit scores. We are inspiring hope in communities where hope may not have existed before. Right. I think teaching students entrepreneurship, it gets them thinking about things that they can do today before they got a high school diploma or a college degree for how they can make money for their families who may already be struggling in poverty. Right? It gives them an immediate solution. I remember I heard Dr. Sean Joseph, who was the last director of schools here, speak at an event. And he made this statement. He said the streets always hiring. Right? The streets always hiring. You want to, you know what I'm saying, if you want to go, you know what I'm saying, be a street pharmacist, you know what I'm saying, there's a place you can go do that. You want to go out here and rob, it's a place you can do that. So we have to give our young people options, better options than the streets. So we have to start teaching financial literacy immediately. It also helps all of our kids, regardless of race, make better decisions after high school. You know, the days of a kid, I mean, this is really true when I graduated high school in 2001, and it should have been over then, but the days of a kid graduating high school and being like, oh, I'm going to go to this out-of-state school, this out-of-state school over here just because I want to move away from home, we can't afford that no more. I mean, out-of-state tuition, for state schools, you're talking about, $25,000, $30,000 a year, times 4. Hopefully you graduate in 4. Most kids graduate in an average of 5, right? So you $30,000 times 5, that's $150,000 that you have to owe, that you have to repay.
You measured in art.
And exactly. But and so to that point, we have to have financial literacy so we can teach students how to make better decisions in terms of what careers they want to pursue with whatever they want to do after high school.
And be realistic about that, right? Let's look at, you want to be this, right? You said you want to go to college and you want to be a designer or whatever it may be. Fine, great. Let's see what do you want to, what kind of car you want to have? What kind of house do you want to live in? Do you want kids? What kind of life you want to provide with those kids? Well, based on this data, this is the maximum amount of money if you work in the structural construct of your career and don't branch off and do your own thing. This is what you're looking at. 60, maybe 70, maybe 50, depending on what the career is. And I think if we started doing that sooner, it was like, oh, okay. And realize we all ain't going to the NFL or NBA. Like, I thought I was going to the NBA, right?
Yeah, we all went through it.
We all went through it, right? And so if we started doing that, right, I think we can really put a dent into some of those things, or at least they have a realistic perspective and be able to see and say, oh, okay, dang, I thought this maybe gave me $100,000 when it only gives me 60. Yeah. What can I do with that? And I want to have kids, and what is your spouse or partner doing? At the same time.
Yeah, I mean, all of that. So the first thing is like we have to change like our perspectives on financial literacy and what it is, right, and why it's important. Right. I also think as a city, we have to.
I'm glad you're changing that narrative, man, because I posed a question to Caden, right? Our intern that asked you the other great question. And the first thing that he thought about asking, like, what do you think about financial literacy, right? Most people comes from an adult perspective and like, oh, I don't even have enough money to even think about financial literacy because I think like financial literacy means I already have money, right? And I'm glad you changing that narrative that it goes deeper than already having money, right? It's about how to make money, how to navigate using your money, and in the picking the sector of career you want to be in. And I don't think people look at that perspective, man. And I'll be honest, I don't think I looked at that perspective.
Why would you?
Right.
Why would anybody?
Listen, I ain't got enough money to be thinking about other than what I already got on my plate.
But no, like seriously,
like,
why would you think that
right.
way if nobody has ever told you that you need to
Right.
think that way?
And the people that's bringing it up is always people that have money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
think about
for
it,
sure.
Like it's like, dang, okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah, man. I you know, yeah.
In white. On top of that, right? From my
Yeah.
lens, right?
We've reached a point with poverty in America now. I don't know. I'm gonna say reached a point. I don't even think I think it's probably been like this for forever. But no, it hadn't always been like this. There was a point because I know. So like, you know, like my family grew up in the projects. All right. But my grandparents was like, hey, like, this isn't a final destination for us. We're going to work to do better. So there was like a desire to find more opportunity to like do better, to go on to something else. I think that climbing out of poverty, or even not even poverty, just economic obscurity has gotten so tough in America that a lot of people have just gotten comfortable in it and have just learned how to survive and don't even look for options out.
Let's talk about the projects a little bit. And it's a whole nother topic, so I don't want to stay on it too long. People are being incentivized, right, to live in those conditions. And when I say people, I'm going to give you more specific. Black women are being incentivized, like, hey, I will give you this subsidized housing, not in the best environment, but I'm going to give you the subsidized housing for you and your kids. However, you got to make sure that you're not making this much money.
Above a certain amount. Mm-hmm.
Money, and you can't have the father in the household. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Toxic, damaging, but you get comfortable. And you learn how to navigate that. Well, I know what day the public housing people is gonna come and check and see if anybody here. So make sure you gone, and et cetera, et cetera. Like that stuff still exists today, and I think that comfortability part is something that that we really need to look more out of. Your grandparents was able to come up with a plan and knew like, hey. But it's a lot of our folks, a lot of our community.
They had more options to do that back then too, because you know our grandparents, even our parents, you could make a very middle class income without a college degree.
Right.
Like my mom graduated from high school and went and worked in banking, and you know did fairly well.
Same thing with my mom.
That's what they did, and then what happened was
not banking, but
it's back to a point that I brought up earlier. What happened in banking was we had banking deregulation. I won't get into what that is, but a lot of the larger banks were able to combine because they could offer more services. And when those banks started combining, they had duplication of tasks, and a lot of people got laid off. And so we started losing a lot of people in banking. Black and white, but obviously, like I said, the consequences for black people are always more severe in an industry like banking. And that actually happened following a recession as well. So bringing up a point that I brought up earlier, black people always suffer more after recessions. This all happened late 80s, early 90s. So it completely disrupted an industry. But today, they're the only industry where you can make a significant salary without a college degree. There are, so let me change that. So today you absolutely have to have some level of post-secondary education. The one career where that may not be necessary is technology, because you can take an online course. You know, you might pay $5,000-$10,000 for it, and you're done, right? But there are other industries where you can, you know, you go and you get a some type of certificate in a couple years, maybe like an HVAC, working at HVAC, or as a welder,
cosmetologist, barbering.
Yeah,
and it depends on. There's essential businesses, right?
Right.
Essential sectors, and then there's non-essential. So
right.
It's just like how you differentiate that when it comes to what we're speaking about as far as like wealth building and being able to need and not need higher education.
Yeah,
To
but
have opportunity.
And that's the point. It's like back then there wasn't this additional barrier of entry. Today we have a lot of barriers to entry. And my personal argument is that we don't even have enough jobs for all these people who we telling to go to college and get these certificates. We don't even have enough jobs for all of them. But back to your point about what's different today about those women living in those conditions, and they're almost being incentivized to stay there. There isn't an exit strategy for a lot of these women, because you look at like, and they have a term for it, and I can't remember what it is. It's like the income gap or income slope or leap, but it's like right now they probably had to keep their income. Let's just say it's like $20,000, but if they want to transition out of living in government housing to a place where they can get their own apartment and do some other things, the jump in income goes from like 20,000 to like 40,000.
Oh yeah, especially in a city like Nashville.
It's a massive leap, and there's nothing in place, or very few. I'm not gonna say nothing. There are insufficient resources to prepare those women to go from living in subsidized housing to a place where they can earn $40,000 a year.
Right.
So
it's just, how do we? Super Money Kids is really intentional. How do we become more intentional as a society to build and help those women in public housing, families in public housing, and others to make that leap? Because we're in a capitalistic society, right? And if I build something that creates the problem, that combats the problem, then, because there's somebody benefiting from the problem existing, and they lose money, right?
Yeah.
And so, how do we? Is there a place to where it's an equilibrium?
I believe so. Like, I believe that there's hope. Like this, issues in terms of poverty and certain, like we're talking about like microeconomic things, those things are addressable, but we can't rely on a system to fix it, to be honest. Like, it's not gonna happen from your mayor. It's not coming from your governor. It has to come from inside of our households and inside of our communities.
You hitting it.
I think that we have to, again, inspire hope and have a level of exposure for people to even see what their options are. There's a woman who lives over in Casey right now who's like, man, I'm trying to figure out like how I can get out of this. And we talk to them about a pivot technology school that'll teach you a tech skill, and you can get a job when you finish. She might not know about that. She probably does now, because I think they got a partnership with MDHA or something. But yeah, it's just like there needs to be a level of awareness, right? So there needs to be the exposure there, and then there has to be a desire, hope, like inspiration to say, hey, you can do this, and you should.
Right. And y'all
that's
doing
all it's
that.
and that's what we do. Yeah. Like, we definitely do the inspiration. We do a lot of exposure. We haven't been doing as much of the exposure work as we have in the past. We've had to get creative during the pandemic.
Yeah, man, I had to track you down for 2 years to try to get to exposure, so I understand.
Yeah. No, like for real. And
I really think it's pivotal, man. One, to break down everything that you talked about around financial literacy and understanding what financial illiteracy is for our community. Understand and know the barriers, but also know there's hope and there's navigation tactics that you can do, and that people like yourself and your organization is like trying to ingrain in community.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, I appreciate you having me on. I always love the opportunity to like, talk about some of this stuff, because people they just aren't aware, and we live in it every day.
And here, man, like, what I like about this platform, we can cut through some of like the BS. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's call out some of the barriers that exist in our social construct. Let's acknowledge it, right? Because there's some people that just like, oh no, like, just pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and you know, is those people still out there? Like, nah, let's call out what's happening to certain people in our communities that's preventing them from climbing that ladder that you're talking about. And then once we acknowledge it, okay, now let's put in some navigation tactics and plans and understand, like, we know this exists now. Okay, well, this is how you navigate it. These are some resources. These are some things you can pivot around it and get to the point that you want to get to. And that's what I love, man. Like, people can come in here and address that and be open about that. And people like yourself and others that are prominent leaders in our community can come out and call it out, right? And can call it out, and you don't have to conform, and you're not going to lose any social capital about it. Right? You're speaking the truth, and then you also giving people solutions and outlook to what hope is and what the possibility of what financial literacy in the future should and can look like if we do the work and build in community together, and support each other and support organizations like Super Money Kids. I keep wanting to say Knowledge Bank. Super Money Kids, man. So what's next, man? What's next?
Man, golly, what's next? I feel like my year is already planned out, and we're just now at the end of January. We have a few new modules we're rolling out.
Okay.
We're finna transition from like personal finance stuff to doing more economic things.
Okay.
Really for the reason we were talking about a second ago in terms of exposure.
Right.
And helping young people see the world versus, you know, their community. So we're doing that from an economic lens. We are, a lot of the content that we've put in schools, we're about to make available for families at home. We're really happy about that. And man, we had a podcast that's launching.
Shout out, come on now, come on with the pod. Hey,
yeah. So it is currently an unnamed podcast with myself and my daughter. And we're gonna talk a lot about.
Me and your daughter still kind of beefing, right?
She keep her enemy in the streets.
Beefing, man. She do. You know what I'm saying? Me and her and Marsha Stevens' kids. You know what I'm saying? I'm beefing with all of them.
But yeah, man, so me and my daughter, you know, we're gonna talk a lot about our conversations we have at home about money, and then just our relationship in general, and what it's like for me, you know, being a single dad,
right.
What it's like for her to be raised,
right,
you know, by her dad, and all of the different
awesome.
Challenges that we encounter on a regular.
Man.
So we got that rolling out.
I gotta have y'all back up here together, man. And she probably gonna eat all the pieces. I might even give her no pieces.
Just make sure she gonna tell you. She gonna be like, I want my own mic. So me and you may have to share a mic.
We got more than mics.
I was gonna say. She's gonna want her own mic. She gonna ask for it.
Oh man.
So we're gonna do more content. I talked a lot about the importance of content earlier, and so that's an area where we just haven't done well. And it's my fault. Of course, it's my fault. Who else is
chief hope dealer?
Who else can I blame? But hopefully this year. We get a little bit better about that. And I want us to spend more time on like content, having conversations like this.
Right.
We're going to kind of shift how we budget our time and do more of this type of thing and less formal curriculum. Because by this summer, we will have two modules for like elementary through middle school.
Okay.
And then we'll have two for basically like upper middle school through high school. And that puts us in a really good place in terms of what we're able to teach.
Right.
And I really just want to be able to promote that stuff throughout the country. So
how can people support? We don't have the bank here, so it's not
right.
So how can people support? Get a bank? I know you all doing the drive.
The bank drive, we didn't even talk about that.
The country.
Yep.
How can people find out more, reach out to you?
Best ways.
Sponsor.
For sure. You can visit our website at supermoneykids.co, supermoneykids.co. You can find us on all the social media platforms, supermoneykids.co. If you're a financial institution or company or individual that's just like, yo, we love what you're doing and we want to provide some financial support, feel free to email me at chale@knowledgebank.money. That's Chale, CHALE @knowledgebank.money. And definitely follow us on our bank drive tour. We're raising awareness to the importance of financial literacy by donating 5,000 of our Super Money banks and our curriculum to schools across the country. And initially, that was a campaign that we were going to only run through the end of January. But we received just so much feedback and support and recommendations that we couldn't get it all done. We couldn't get everything scheduled by the end of January. Right. So we've decided to push that out through the end of April.
That's a good problem.
It's a good, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So we're pushing that out to the end of April. Okay. April is Financial Literacy Month. Okay. And so it'd be a good time to finish that campaign up.
We gotta do some type of pizza and financial literacy collaboration, man.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Yeah, let's make it happen, man.
I'm with it.
Last question for you. What does the future of financial literacy look like here in Nashville in the next 5 years?
Do I have to answer it from the perspective of Nashville?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
all right. I got it.
We natives here.
Okay.
We're speaking directly to Nashville.
I'm gonna answer it on a national level, and I'll answer it for Nashville. The work that we're doing locally is just really like blowing up and expanding. We have a lot of corporations who supported the work that we're doing. Alliance Bernstein, Jackson National, Citizens Bank, Studio Bank, Ernst & Young, Vanderbilt University, Assurion, and I probably shouldn't even start naming everybody because I'm going to forget somebody. We're getting a lot of support to do this work because our corporations recognize the importance of our kids growing up having access to all of the resources that they need to be successful. We're just in a lot more schools than we ever have been before. In the next 5 years, I expect anyone to be able to go into a metro school and they know what Super Money Kids is. It don't matter what neighborhood, it don't matter what grade level. Right. You walk into that school and let's say, hey, are y'all familiar with Super Money Kids? And they get really, really excited.
I got my bank right
and
here.
And like, hey, we have a bank right here on the shelf. All of our kids go through the program at some point during the year. And in 5 years in Nashville, it needs to be expected that our kids, especially here in Nashville, that our kids complete at least one of our courses. What we're going to see on a national level is we're going to see more states requiring financial literacy at all grade levels. Tennessee actually requires like a half credit of personal finance class to graduate. It's not nearly enough. And to be perfectly honest, our teachers are ill-equipped to adequately teach that topic.
Right, you need resources.
Yeah, you need resources. Like, they got people teaching it that are also like the PE teacher. Like,
right.
There's no, right. So our districts are just under-resourced in order to do that well. We help with that. It's a really light lift for the teachers. It doesn't require attending a workshop or a teacher actually teaching it herself. Everything is digital, so it's a really fun experience. And so we're about to, as a country, we're about to get there where it's like, hey, our kids need financial education because it's good for our economy overall. We live in the South and we in Tennessee and we a little slow to adopt some things, especially at times for multiple reasons. We don't have to go there, but for multiple reasons on a state level, we're slow at doing some things. But Nashville is a really progressive city, and I believe that our city will respond outside of the mandates that come from the state. I did that on purpose. I'm just being petty, but I didn't have to do that. But
the redistricting, might you know what I'm saying?
It could change the level of progression that we see here in Nashville. That is a really good point. Yeah.
But Courtney, man, I appreciate your time, fam. Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise, man.
Yeah, man. Glad you enjoyed your vegan pizza.
I smashed my hand.
You did. It's yours, man.
I'm done. I can't eat it. I told you after I got done, I gotta throw it with myself.
But man, hey, everybody appreciate all the love and support for checking out this episode with Courtney Hale. Shout out to Studio Bank for sponsoring again, and make sure y'all watch the next episode. All right, we out.